Hello, my good people. Josh here, along with Boz, another edition of Boxing Chit. We are here to talk about some of the great boxing that has taken place over the past weekend, and we have had a lot. And interestingly, we do have one of those, I guess you can say, kind of rare big fight Sundays in some sense, with Claressa Shells fighting today as well. So we'll talk about that as well as what went down with Morrell Benavidez. In the meantime, how's it going there, Boz?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. The weather is kind of not so good at the moment, but yeah, what can you do about it? It is winter and it's Norway. So yeah, it's going pretty well.
I couldn't tell
Otherwise,
that it was winter because you brought the guns out today. So
yeah, here it's pretty warm. The heating is really is good, so that's why you get warm. Actually, get hot inside if you wear too much clothes.
oh yes, yes, indeed. But oh, good stuff there. Happy to have you here, Boz. But also happy to have everyone else here. Cheers to your random acoustic thoughts. Who says big up there to your random acoustic thoughts. Thank you for dropping by there, buddy. And Jesus
Yeah,
has dropped in. Jesus him says saludos, happy Sunday there to you, Jesus. Great to have you here in the mix. Jesus says total one-sided by Benavidez. I scored 10 rounds for Benavidez. Hey, I will say same here, Jesus. And Jesus also says
really.
Benavidez never let Morrell get into rhythm and get momentum. Indeed. So we are here to talk about it, folks. Again, another edition of Boxing Chit. You see the things across the screen. If you're watching down there at the bottom, be sure to go follow on all those channels. Check out Boz's Boxing Chit, which should be connected here, or maybe it isn't connected, but do go check it out. Boz's Boxing as well. We're going to keep this thing going. Keep riding out Sunday Boxing Chit, and we're diving in. So, of course, the big fight of the weekend was no doubt one of the biggest and anticipated fights for the year. And we got it early here, February 1st, as a matter of fact. And it was a WBA and WBC World Light Heavyweight Championship interim fight. It was an interim championship fight there for the WBC. I see the WBA is listed there. The validity of that, I don't know. But certainly it was an interim fight. Excuse me. And it was David Benavidez, the Mexican monster, taking on David Morrell, the battle of two Davids there. And these are two guys who were making their second fight at 175 pounds, as a matter of fact. And they come with a lot of fanfare, and this was going to be one of those that was essentially a 50-50 fight because of the tool set that each of them had there, Boz, with Benavidez being one of those guys who continually comes forward, walks his opponents down, even if he gives up some rounds there on the early end. David Morrell being one of those guys who seemingly was the total package in my eyes as far as his ability. I mean, he can box, he's got decent size to him. Got a little bit of pop, a little bit of power, speed, great footwork. He can move well. And so that was going to make it a very interesting 50-50 style fight coming into it. Now, what we actually saw in the contest was where that experience prevailed, and also that mindset. Some of those intangibles came through as far as David Benavidez. And it wasn't because David Morrell wasn't game. It's just that Benavidez showed that, hey, experience matters in this sport. And when you have the mentality of not being stopped or pushed back, then that can really change the game a great deal there. So it ended up being a 12 round unanimous decision in favor of David Benavidez there, Boz. Wanted to get your thoughts on what you
Yeah.
saw from how it went down, and what are your thoughts as well based on what happened and what you were thinking leading into the contest.
Yeah, as you said, the difference in experience was really big. You can't overlook that. I mean, 11 fights versus 29. It's like more than almost three times as many for Benavides coming into this fight. So yeah, I just think Morrell didn't yet quite find himself at 175, even though he did score the only knockdown of the fight. And then, however, that didn't really,
True.
you know, work in his favor because he got a point deducted at the end of that same round, 11. So
Oh yes.
that was kind of criticized, that move, I guess, by some people. Yeah, I mean, both guys landed some really nice punches and hurt each other. But from what I saw, I mean, I didn't really watch the entire fight yet, but it seemed like Benavidez kind of had, had Morrell under control for much of that fight, and yeah, I mean, however, I came across one side where that guy thought that Morrell had been robbed. So I
Oh
don't know
wow.
really. Yeah. So, but you say you had it really clearly for Benavidez, right? So
Yes,
there
I
you
had
go.
it clear for Benavidez.
Yeah.
10 rounds, as a matter of fact. I gave 2 rounds to David Morrell in the contest,
Yeah.
and one of them
And
was the first round, which some probably went the other route.
one judge also had that score, I believe, 118, 110,
Or as a matter of fact,
112.
hold up. I digress. Now, I did do this on Fight Night scores. I had it 117, 111, so I gave him 3 rounds then. So I did give
Three
him three
rounds.
rounds. The round with the
Yeah.
knockdown, the third round, I believe it was, I might have given to Morrell. But I
Hmm.
can certainly pull it up on Fight Night scores. But I did give him 3 rounds as it turned out. But my score ended up being
Weird.
117, 111.
Yeah, he won that round 9-8. How weird is that?
Okay,
That is
okay.
so, but yeah, I mean, I saw the other two judges said it 115, 111, so that means they gave Morel 4 rounds. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
So yeah,
with
yeah.
them.
So three for me then. So not too far off, I guess you can say, where
So,
everyone
yeah,
else was at.
I really, I mean, as I said, the experience was a factor, and Benavidez, being very good, simply, and really, he has quite a chin as well. So,
Oh yeah.
despite all the good punches, the hard ones that Morel landed, he just wasn't able to get him in, especially not out of there, obviously. So, and he was hurt himself as well, Morel. So
Yeah.
Benavidez actually showed, maybe he even surprised me. I didn't think he had so much power, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he mostly kind of won by wearing out his opponents when he won by knockout. So,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, he only stopped Lemieux in 3 rounds, and he was kind of, a middleweight who was past it. So, but yeah, I mean, what this means for, of course, Benavidez, it means a lot. This victory, sorry, he is now, as far as I understand, on the way to fighting Beterbiev, and yeah, just
Yeah.
that will be one hell of a fight. Oh man, of course.
Oh yeah. And I do look forward to that one, for sure. And I think it'll be a hell of a fight there. Real quick, let me shout out Chris Irish Boxing says, salute boys. Nice and early today. Yes, indeed. There. Appreciate you there, Chris, for dropping by. Thanks there, buddy. Be sure to go check them out, folks. Yeah, we're talking here, Boxing Chit. We're talking David Morrell, David Benavidez, the contest that went down here the other or last
Mhm.
night, and hey, it was a banger for sure, as we mentioned. Now, I looked at my scorecard here, Boz, and I did have it as mentioned 3 rounds for Morrell. So I gave Morrell round one, which
Hmm.
was a toss up in some sense. I gave Morrell round five, and I gave Morrell round 11. Now, in that round 11, that's where the knockdown came, I'm sure. Now that I think about it. Now, what I did was I made it a 10-9 round in favor of Morrell, even though he had gotten a knockdown. But you made a good point there. Maybe I should have made it a 9-8 round there, Boz.
Yeah. Well, not according to this gentleman in the chat, but uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He did get a point taken away, even
yeah.
if you don't agree with it. So that's how it is on paper.
Yeah, so because of I guess I did it. Yeah, I did do it wrong because I thought that he had I thought that he won the round, of course, by virtue of the knockdown. So, see, hey, even you can make mistakes, even if you do a lot of judging and all that stuff, you can make mistakes. But yeah,
Yeah,
I had it 10-9, but I gave that point to Benavidez. But yeah, I should have had it a 9-8 because, yes, I
yeah,
agree with the point
because of the
because
knockdown. Yeah, of
the
course.
point that Boz has mentioned was Morrell hitting Benavidez after the bell, and it came just shortly after the bell. You can see there was some anger and intent there.
Yeah, and if it was the first time, also, I think it was unnecessary to take the point, away. So,
You think so?
yeah, I mean, if it's the first time, I don't know, was it the
Oh yeah.
first? Yeah,
It
I
was the
think so.
first time. It just it
Yeah,
was after the bell. It was a big shot.
yeah,
So there are
it's
some
kind
who
of,
probably feel that maybe not. So that made it interesting.
yeah. I mean, certain judges would not take a point away, others would, and it's kind of like that individually. It's
Yeah,
everybody's.
but I
Uh,
would have. Now I did it wrong in my
yeah,
scoring,
you
so I
are.
ended up 117, 111. So I don't think it changed the outcome of the fight, regardless. Say if the knockdown would have counted or whatever, Morrell still would have lost when you look at it from overall rounds. But that being said, yeah, that is an interesting one. Some might go that other route, as you noted there, by
So
the
what?
terms of not counting the
Yeah.
not counting
What
it.
what would your score be now then? Now that you have changed that around?
Yeah, I need to do that. As a matter of fact, because that is an interesting one. Technically, you can't go back and do anything from a overall standpoint, but yeah, that would
Yeah.
put me at a 116. So it'll likely be 116, 110 if
Let
I.
me just ask you one thing. I always wonder about it. What will you score it? Let's say if one fight guy scores two knockdowns in one round and the other one scores one. So what do you score
Oh
it for
yeah,
the first guy? Is it 10-9 or 10-8? It's because that's a little, you know,
yeah. That's an interesting one. Yeah, it may end up being like a 10-8. It
yeah,
might if they're legitimate knockdowns. Yeah, it'll likely end up being a 10-8. Uh,
10-8 or
I would
yeah,
say, yeah. So that would be interesting, and we have seen that happen. As a matter of fact, in
yeah.
in that Abdullah Mason contest, I was trying to think here recently. I know there were a couple of a few knockdowns exchanged. I can't remember if there were three in a single round, but there are at least two. But I think that may have been him, and then the next round he may have knocked the guy down. But that is an interesting one. But I'm thinking 10-8 there, Bob, because you counteract what would be that 10-7 with that. If that individual got a knockdown,
Yeah,
that would have generally made it a 10, which counted
10-8,
as
yeah,
10-8 in his favor or whatever. But he's
yeah.
already gone down twice.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be more proper than say an 8-7 or 8-8 or whatever. Yeah, you couldn't do that. But if you wanted to take points from the other person
Yeah, that's not.
or
you
9-7,
gotta you gotta give 10 to somebody. I mean, the guy who scored more
yeah, yeah,
knockdowns gets 10,
yeah.
of course.
So yeah, it makes it very interesting there. But that's a good one to think about there. Real quick,
Yeah,
again, another edition of Boxing Chit, folks. Be sure to go like and subscribe. Not only here, but Boz's Boxing. We're talking Morrell Benavidez big time light heavyweight interim championship fight with the winner expected to take on Beterbiev and Bivol winner. Should that come about next? We'll see though. Real quick, Jesus
no,
said didn't watch the entire. Oh yeah. Boz has to watch the entirety of it. Chris Irish Boxing says Pitbull got schooled last night. Oh yeah, Pitbull. He was in there with a rough and tumblewood. I thought he deserved to deny it though. Jose said he cut his eye. He dropped him. Indeed, there, Jose. Cheers to you, Jose. Thanks for dropping by there, buddy. Jose holding it down, representing Cuba. And yeah, it was a good fight. Getting back into the airport, everybody going back to Miami, says Jose. All right, gotcha. That was a 10-8 round night. Then they took a punt away. Go back and look at it. Gotcha there. Yeah, it was it's for that hit after the bell. So yeah, that one, might be considered controversial, questionable. But that being said, David Benavidez, hey, he was in there and putting in that work for sure. Now, I wanted to mention there but this isn't the end of the road for either guy by any stretch, even with David
Mm.
Morrell. You made out a good point. One of the things that I saw there early on was that David Benavidez, he had more impactful shots. It seemed to have more power behind him. He looked to be the stronger
Yeah,
fighter in there in the ring there with the way he was marching
yeah,
forward and landing his shots. And you noted that you didn't expect such kind of. I didn't expect such veracity as far as how he was landing when he was coming forward as well.
yeah. Sometimes when fighters move up, they kind of their power increases sometimes actually
Yeah,
with the weight gain. So yeah, that's obviously what's happened with him, and, and now he's such a beast. Even more so than he was before. Yep.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree there, and I think that showed with Morrell, and he felt that power. Now, that being said, Morrell was
Yeah.
able to land some pretty solid shots as well, but never
Yeah.
could get on track enough to where he could take over in any sense. And largely, he fought the entirety of the fight on the back foot.
Mm.
Excuse me. So Benavidez
Yeah.
was pushing forward, but and Morrell, he was doing well fighting off the back foot for point or at points. But that being said, he probably needed to press forward offensively a bit more because when you think about some of the more impressive stoppages that Morrell has gained, this was him on the front foot coming forward. So you think about his skill
Mm.
set and all of that, and then the other tools that come into the fold, he was coming forward, really giving it to those guys, you know. When he fought that Russian fighter, I think he was Russian or Eastern European fighter, and he ended up going to the hospital, which was a very tough fight. He was coming
Wozniak,
forward, just
you mean?
laying it to him offensively.
You mean Wozniak?
No, not both. I'm thinking of Morrell when he
Oh,
fought that guy
Morrell.
and sent him to the
Oh,
hospital with a
oh,
brain
yeah,
injury.
that guy. Yeah, Yerbo Sinuli. He's a Kazakh
Reversinoli. Yeah, Morrell was coming
fighter.
forward and he was just really laying into him offensively.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know really why Morrell. Of course, he wasn't gonna, go toe to toe with Benavidez. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be a
exactly.
mistake. So yeah, he had to box more and yeah, fight off the back foot and yeah,
Yeah,
I guess I don't know. Guess it just became too much. Benavidez, we saw it when he fought Caleb Plant. Also, Plant is a good boxer, also
oh
pretty
yeah,
good technical boxer, but he just wasn't able to get the better of Benavidez. And yeah, just yeah, I
yeah,
don't think I don't know who will eventually, if anybody, will manage to defeat Benavidez. We'll see, but it's not gonna be easy for anybody.
yeah.
Bivol or Better or anybody. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, thinking about that, that kind of seems to be the sort of thought as far as what may be next. As mentioned, Turkey wants to see him take on the winner of Benavidez versus or Better Biev versus Bivol. So this will be your part
True.
two, of course. There
Yeah.
now, the thing at hand, of course, is the fact that if Dimitri Vivol wins, it would seem likely that there would be an immediate rematch or it would be a third fight
Mm.
because we need to get that trilogy. So I'm wondering if he's thinking from the standpoint of a fight in between that or what. But either way, I'm signing me up for it. Even if there's a third fight, because that means that this second one was good. But also, Benavidez taking on the winner.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. The first, we must have Terbier versus Bivol, and if Bivol wins, of course, then it will be him versus, I guess, versus Benavidez instead, and yep, that might very well happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it,
Mm.
it, it could very well. And I was saying this, I was chatting last night, and I would even be cool with the Morrell taking on the loser of that contest as well. I think that's a great consolation prize right there. If
Hmm.
Morrell takes on whomever loses that, and say they make it a double header or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, that would be also cool. I think, of course, if Bivol fights Benavidez, then it's a very different fight, and I give him probably the best chance of winning against Benavidez.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hey, and I think it's a good fight for the fans just as a whole. So we'll see how it goes. I'm having some technical issues here on my side, so hopefully this is still showing
Really,
up for everyone else.
I don't know. I haven't noticed really.
You haven't noticed?
No.
Okay, yeah, it's noticeable on my end, but hey, we'll keep trucking along though. But anyway, so that's what went down there, folks, with Benavidez
Mm,
Morrell. So it ended up being a fairly, I guess you can say, dominant victory for David Benavidez, and he moves forward, the Mexican monster. Still yet to have anyone really take him off of
yeah.
his edge. And hey, he's got the mentality that's hard to match there. So salute there. Now, as mentioned, this was or I may not have mentioned it, but this was a pay per view, a PBC pay per view. So there were some other fights on the card. And it actually turned out to be a damn good card from an overall perspective. So in the co-main event, we had a featherweight title matchup between Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton, Cool
Yeah.
Boy Steph, that is. So it was a featherweight championship contest. I think it was the WBC title that was on the line, actually. And this was a rematch of two fighters who had faced off at 122 pounds a few years back. And in that 122-pound contest, which was a title contest, Fulton had pulled off a unanimous decision in a kind of rough and tumble fight, but Fulton was able to outbox him. He's the trickier of the two fighters, and Figueroa has a very interesting style where, though he's the longer, leaner fighter, he
Yeah.
loves to work from the inside. So in this contest, like leading into it, I thought that the edge might be with uh, Figueroa, just given
Yeah.
his size there, 126 pound. Fulton not looking as good when he made his return to 126 pounds. And I
Yeah.
thought that that pressure there on the inside would be a lot to deal with. And it was a lot to deal with, but I would say that Stephen Fulton handled it with flying colors. If you want to look at a way to handle one of those guys who is trying to get on the inside and make it a very rough fight, it seems that he came in built for it. He made some adjustments, and you could argue, excuse me, you could argue he had a better go of it this time around at the higher weight than he did the first time around, which again was a close fight that first time around. But this time around, Fulton won a unanimous decision. I think it was even more clear, and got to give props to him because of the fact that Figueroa did try to press him, and he had some rough moments that he was dealing with. He was had a bloody nose. I believe it was his nose that the blood was pouring from. That being said, he maintained composure even when against the ropes and punches coming from crazy angles. He was able to do what he needed to do to keep Figueroa at bay for good portions of the round and land the cleaner and certainly more impactful and more impressive shots. And he had some power behind those shots as well. So that ended up being one of those contests that, hey, I think Stephen Fulton showed that, hey, he's still here. He's still someone to be
Yeah.
reckoned with. And he's in a crowded 126-pound division there, with the likes of Rafael Espinoza, Nick Ball, Angelo Leo, who are champions there. So it should make things very interesting. I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't watch the fight, but I read about it. So apparently, I also kind of favored Figueroa to win this time, because he had been looking good and lately in his fights, and yeah, Fulton was destroyed by Norway, and then had quite a rough fight in his comeback, and against Castro, and so yeah, I thought Figueroa would get him, just this time, maybe not get him out, but that he would beat him anyway. But after what I read, it was he didn't really look his usual self, Figueroa, and it wasn't a very exciting fight. So I guess the crowd booed and little stuff like that because the first fight was such an exciting fight and a candidate for a fight of the year and stuff like that. So this time it was, but I guess it was much less exciting because Figueroa didn't really do so well and didn't engage in stuff. Was outboxed, as
Yeah,
you said. So whatever the reason, for that, yeah, I don't know really, but it's not what I expected to happen.
yeah,
But anyway, Fulton has the title now, and he can fight. Of course, he will go on to fight. Hopefully, someone else of the top dogs in that division soon. Yep.
yeah.
Let's
It might have
let's.
been one of those cases where Figueroa, he's tried to be something that he's not in terms of being turned
Mm,
into a boxer, and he's more of a brawler there who
mm,
gets a lot of work done on the inside, So that's one of those
yeah.
that will have to be looked at for sure. But certainly a heck of a performance there in terms of doing what he had to do by Stephen Fulton. Yeah, I'm having issues on my screen, but I do have my phone here. So shout out to Ernest who's in the mix here. Says fight went down just as I predicted, even the knockdown. So yeah, no doubt about it. So
Right.
it definitely,
Yeah.
went down as predicted there for sure. So kudos, props right there in that regard. Be sure to check him out, folks. Ernest Johnson
Mm,
on its channel, or may have some things on that channel, or it could be another one there. But salute there to you, representing the Tim and Tim show. So cheers. But yeah, so Figueroa, Fulton, that was one. Yeah, it went a little bit different than some might have thought, but as Ernest mentioned, some were right on point. Fulton, hey, he moves on, so I like to see him in the mix there at 126 pounds. I think it's a fresh division right now. You have some pretty solid names as mentioned. Nick Ball's a
mm,
force, of course.
yeah.
Espinoza, who has beaten Robeisy Ramirez twice. Angelo Leo
Mm,
with the knockout of the year last year when he knocked out Lopez. So there
oh
are
yeah.
some fights that could take place, and I'd like to see Fulton in there
And
with either of them.
yeah, and Leo has already fought and lost to Fulton, so that was his so far only loss, right? Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, that is right. That is right. So that would be an interesting rematch right there, right? So hey, maybe
Mm,
we get that at some point.
yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Excuse me.
He now
Yeah, here the
also has
different weight.
he has the IBF title, so that will be a pretty interesting title, a logical fight, title unification.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We can get that. That'll
Mm.
be pretty dope there. Salute to Just Frank who just dropped in. Said salute Josh and
Oh,
Boz. Peace and love, brothers.
hey,
Hey, appreciate
buddy.
you there, Just Frank. Salute. Thanks for
Yeah, he
dropping
was.
by as always. Be sure to go check out Just Frank, folks. He has a channel, does some gaming, things of that nature over there. Appreciate you there, Just Frank. Salute
He
my guy.
attended my very first stream that I did from Boz Boxing. So thank you,
Oh,
Frank.
cool, cool. That's love right there. Appreciate that
Yep.
love right there, Just Frank. Good stuff, my man. So another fight that went down that we wanted to talk about on the card, which ultimately to this point is the fight of the year, as far as I'm concerned. I know we're early on here or this is 1st of February, but based on what I can recall, this is the fight of the year, and that is Pitbull, Isaac Pitbull Cruz taking
All
on
right.
Angel Fierro or Angel Fierro. These are two
Yeah.
Mexican fighters going to war. The WBC had an Aztec Warrior custom belt that they made for this contest, and it did live up to the height. It was a 10-rounder at 140 pounds. Of course, we know Cruz, he was coming back from a loss to Rayo Venezuela. That being
Oh,
said, he seemed to not let that loss shake him whatsoever. And he came in and was a force there very early on. Now, Fierro was a guy who many probably didn't know, and I had stated that to myself, and I mentioned it to some others that, hey, don't sleep on Fierro. He's one of those guys who comes forward big, solid, and he could probably start to lay into Pitbull. As a matter of fact, I even gave the nod or edge to Fierro. Now, in watching the contest and seeing what went down, I definitely felt, excuse me, I definitely felt that Pitbull won the contest, and it was one of those fights that, man, if you missed it, you want to check it out. So Pitbull came out storming straight out of the gate, storming, landing some huge shots, like huge hooks that were rocking Fierro. It was crazy. It was to the point like, oh my goodness, is he gonna make it out of the first round? Fierro ultimately did, but man, he had to go through some bombs there in the first round, and he almost went down a couple of times. And this didn't stop for the entirety of the contest in terms of Pitbull. You know him stylistically kind of keep those gloves tucked in, comes in swinging. And the thing about it is Fierro, while he struggled with kind of stopping that brute force of Pitbull as he came forward, ultimately Fierro, he was able to get off some shots of his own, and he was able to actually hurt Pitbull a few times. I think what it was is that the quantity, if you look at it from a CompuBox standpoint, ended up being on Fierro's side with him throwing more, but he didn't land as many. He didn't land as many. He wasn't super far off, but he didn't land as many. He landed at a 30% clip as opposed to Pitbull at 40%. And at one point, Pitbull was even higher with his PowerPoint percentage. I don't know what his PowerPoint ended up, but it was up there. I believe it was nearly 50% at one point, or it might have been right above 50% at one point. I think 53 or something like that. When you think about that, that is absolutely crazy. So one of the issues with Fierro, even though he's the bigger, sort of longer fighter, is he just had to continually deal with Pitbull coming forward, and that force was nonstop. So he was stuck sort of in limbo at points, just trying to catch a breath or whatever it may be. But he showed some grit and guts and battled back, and there had some exchanges in moments that were insane. And you just were saying to yourself, how are either of these guys standing up? And I think that's the more miraculous thing out of the entirety of the contest, is just with the level and veracity of the punches landed, neither of them went down. And Fierro won some kudos, because some of those shots he was taking from Pitbull, they would have gotten another guy out of there. I mean, it was almost no different than some of the shots that were being landed on Rolly, for instance. They were rocking him all over the ring. Pitbull was landing these on Fierro, and he showed that he had a hell of a chin. So both of them really. I don't think you caught that contest there, Boz. I don't know if you saw highlights or whatever, but it is one that you definitely want to see.
Yeah, I just actually now I watched the highlights of it. So I saw. Yeah, there was some hellacious punches being landed there, man. And Fierro, the taller guy, he fought the taller guys fight pretty well, I guess, especially later on. It looked like landed some punches, but from what I saw anyway, it looked like Cruz was deservedly the winner in the end. It was a true Mexican slugfest.
Well, yes, that's what I was saying. In the midst of the contest, Mexican style. This is what we're talking about. Two warriors making history via that ring, and I do think that this is one that will be talked about here as the week goes on, the year goes on. We can't forget about this, and it's going to be, because it was a damn good one, and you saw two fighters just executing in there with what they did best, and they were bringing it. The fans were certainly in mind. So this was the fight of the night in that sense, the show stealer in terms of how it went down, and props to both of these guys as mentioned. So Fierro, he won some fans. Pitbull showed why he's a fan favorite. And man, you can't help but just wonder and want to see Pitbull in there with pretty much anyone at this
Yeah.
stage, in or around 140 pounds. Whether that ends up being a
Mm.
rematch with Tank, I think that will be a good one. Whether that ends up being him taking on one of the other champions or something of that nature, whether that's Haney, uh, Teofimo Lopez,
Mm.
Barboza, Catterall, you name it. But I did see that there was some type of order on one of the titles for, I believe, Teofimo Lopez to take on the winner of Catterall versus Arnold Barboza, which should be a
Oh
good
yeah.
contest. And that's one that's coming up here soon. With that being
That's
said, throw Pitbull in there with anyone. And
that's gonna
Fierro, hey, he showed that he has the metal as well, and he's a guy that he'll stand his ground and fight. So I want to see
be.
him continually as well. So both of them raised their stocks in this contest, and you can't help but want to see it again, or at least see them again. And if this
Yeah.
fight were to happen again, hey, cool for it too. But it was a rough and tumble one right there. You know.
Yeah, everybody loves watching those fights, and Pitbull also. We all love watching him, and he had that in his last fight hit a wall, you might say, but he's back, bounced back, and yeah, it happens. Some nights you just don't fight so well, and or maybe the decision goes against you, even if you did fight well enough. But yeah, everybody has their off nights and nights when they are on fire. So yeah, that's how it goes in boxing.
Oh yeah, it is
Uh,
how it goes. Shout out there, Just Frank, right there. Hey,
yeah,
subscribe. Be sure to like and subscribe, folks.
I just think when you mentioned Catterall and Barboza,
Yeah,
yeah, that's gonna be very technically interesting fight. But I think even though Barboza is a really skilled fighter, I favor Catterall because what he showed against Prograis, that was really just very impressive. How he went back after getting knocked down and stuff and losing some rounds, and then just took you apart pretty much in the rest of the fight. And yeah, he's a southpaw. I don't know if Barboza is a southpaw, but
I believe he's orthodox, but yeah,
uh,
no, Catterall. Hey, he's the real deal for sure.
yeah, and
I
he's just
yeah,
that kind of worst kind of southpaw also to fight. Because the way he throws that left hand and all that really kind of crouched and stuff. Very
yeah.
special kind of movement he's got.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I will say it's going to be an interesting one. I like
Mm,
Barboza. I think he's a very good fighter, and
yeah.
he's all around from an all around standpoint. Not that one
Mm,
thing that stands out in totality, but as an all around fighter, I do like him. But yeah, Catterall, man, yeah, he's very good. He can when he needs to, he
yeah.
needs to be patient. He seems to
He's
have a good mix
yeah.
of sort of everything, a little bit of speed, not necessarily
Some
known as a power guy, a power puncher, but that being
no.
said, there's something behind those punches for sure. So,
Yeah.
and he can counter fairly well, and he doesn't mind, getting a little bit, I guess you could say, crafty and roughing it up if he needs to. We saw that in the Josh Taylor contest.
Yeah. I think this time around probably the fight will be closer, Barboza versus Carroll, than Carroll versus Prograis. But yeah, it will be. I think so, but I favor Carroll to win it, of course. And yeah,
Oh
he
yeah,
can really get far if he stays focused, which I think he will, of course.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes down for sure. So that's another contest we'll keep tabs on there. 140 pounds. So there are plenty of fighters, plenty of talent there at 140. So we'll likely see Cruz and Fierro in there with some name
Yeah.
here at some point in the near future, or maybe in the middle of this year. So sign me up
Mm,
for it, most certainly. I want to see both guys again, no doubt about it. Now,
mm.
I want to mention another fight that went down. Now it was at 160 pounds, so I think that's maybe where they intend to operate. But Jesus Ramos taking on Jason Banana Rosario, and this was, as mentioned, a middleweight contest. And man, I will say that leading into it, I was leaning towards Jesus Ramos because he's one of these fighters that I felt is top tier just from what I've seen. The way he works to the body, I mean, he's patient in there as well. He did lose a fight to Erickson Lubin in controversial fashion. Let's just say that. But that being said, from what he's shown, man, he's going to be a force. And I think that was on display. That was the lead-in fight for the pay-per-view portion of it. And I thought it was a good one in terms of we got to see just how good Jesus Ramos is. He picked up a 8th round TKO over Jason Rosario, who of course is a former world champion. And Rosario, you could argue, certainly has his limitations as far as his ability to take punches. And I knew that would be something that would come into the fold, which is why I favored Ramos in a late stoppage. And that's ultimately what happened. So 8th round. So I guess you can say, yeah, it was a 10-rounder. So yeah, late stoppage in that sense. But really the story of it and the fight in itself, you got to see Ramos put his skill set on display. He was landing some very nice shots to the body. His hooks were on point. He actually dropped Rosario with a little combination of a right hook and then a straight left, I believe it was, that was thrown in there, and it was right on the button, and that dropped Rosario. But prior to that, he was just using levels to just dig in on Rosario, landing some good shots to the body. You could see the sides of Rosario's body just start to get red as the rounds wore on. You could see his face start to swell up and get red as the rounds wore on because there was some crisp punching. And this was another one where, from an accuracy standpoint, if you look back at the stats, at least what's tracked, you'll see that Ramos was landing at a very high clip. And I think that he's a welcome addition there. If it's going to be 160 pounds that he's operating at, then he's a welcome addition. You know, we have Jonathan Canoli there. We have Carlos Adames, some others who are in the mix there. So he's a welcome addition. And I think that Ramos, who looks good for that weight, his size and everything, that's no problem. His skill set is no problem there. So I want to point that one out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to stop also Rosario, because also I know that Rosario is now past his prime and, you know, has been stopped already and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I actually didn't even think it would go that as far as 8th round, but just. I mean, but still, it was a good victory for Ramos, and Rosario just hasn't been the same guy since he lost to both Charlo and Lubin, also by knockout both times, and he just had that one big victory against J Rock, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was pretty much it. Just happened to catch him, I guess, on a bad night or something, or maybe he just, had his number, as they say. I don't know. But,
on that night he did. I'll say that. So it was good stuff. And in this contest also, I wanted to mention there was the referee stopped it. I thought it was a good stoppage. Rosario was getting tagged, and you could argue, oh no, he's still standing or whatever. But no, I think that he was about to get knocked out there shortly after that stoppage had it gone on. So the referee likely did him a favor, so he can fight on another day. I'd imagine he's not done. So salute there too. The referee in that contest. Real quick, again, another edition of Boxing Chit. We appreciate everyone dropping by, doing their thing. So salute to you all. We are here, Josh and Boz. We're talking boxing. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, as well as those in the chat. Check them out. Shout out to Yoda, who's in the mix, said he wants to see David versus Mbili. Appreciate you there, Yoda. Thanks for dropping by. And as Ernest noted, yeah, they are different weight classes, but that being said, yeah, that would be an interesting one right there. Size-wise, it would be interesting because Mbili, he isn't a tall 168 pounder or whatnot, but man, he fights like he's the biggest man there in the ring, so he would certainly be coming forward. That'll be an interesting contest. But now with Morrell, with the Davids, both Davids at least operating at 175, yeah, probably not anytime soon. But we may catch Mbili in there with some of these other names at 168 pounds, whether that's a Pacheco, whether that's Berlanga. I think that would be a good one right there. Bring out some fight in Berlanga. We'll see what that power does there. You name it. So some other ones. Iglesias, he's one to watch for sure. So there are some names at 168 to fill things out here in the meantime. But salute to you there. Appreciate you dropping by. Also, just want to mention, kind of topping off some of the undercard fights that went down on this. I didn't get to catch a good deal of these, but I caught pieces of some of them. So Coelho, he picked up a 10th round TK over Olivo in a contest that had some pretty decent back and forth. When I was watching it, I saw Coelho get dropped, and he rose from it, overcame it. And he ended up stopping Olivo in the 10th round. Excuse me, the 10th round. Now, you could argue that maybe he still could fight a bit, but that being said, I'm not going to argue against the ref's decision. He probably saved them a good deal there. Excuse me, but a good fight from both of them. So that's when I intend to go watch in full totality, because I caught it, but I was doing some other stuff at the same time. So I couldn't watch it fully straight head on the way that I wanted to. But that was a good one right there. And that was a 10-round featherweight contest. But you think about that, a 10th round stoppage. So I saw the stoppage when it was going down. I saw the earlier portion as well, just watching it straight. Man, good contest for both of them. Coelho, he showed that he's a pretty solid boxer, a solid fighter, and has that mental resolve as well. And Olivo, I expect to see him again too. Also, there was a middleweight contest that was a 10-rounder, but I think the guy's name is Unil Hernandez, but he's a Cuban fighter. I'm going to tell you his name because he is one to freaking watch.
I saw that fight happen. I mean, supposed to happen.
Okay. Yonli Hernandez against Angel Reese. So you saw that one there, Boz?
No, I didn't see it, but I just came across it. In this prediction league where I am on Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Yonli Hernandez. So basically, my takeaway from seeing, I didn't see the entire fight, but I saw pretty much the second half of it. And my takeaway was, and it was only 4 rounds, so I saw like 2 rounds basically. And I saw the stoppage. And my takeaway is that Hernandez is a fighter to watch. He's from that Cuban school of boxing. Of course, you can tell he's big, size-wise for middleweight, and he's super skilled. I mean, he seems to be almost like Morrell in terms of some of the strong points we've seen in David Morrell and what kind of got us to latch on to him. You see some of that in Hernandez, and he has some decent speed to him, but that tool set that he has is amazing. So Yonli Hernandez, you're hearing it here, folks. The way he was laying into Ruiz, that stoppage was a good stoppage. He is one to watch. He just seems to be, when you think about or when you see a fighter, you're like, he's different, or he looks different. He has that look and feel to him. So Yonli Hernandez, I'd imagine we see him again. As I understand it, he might have come into the contest 7-0, 7 stoppages. Either that or 6-0, 6 stoppages, one of them. But he left with another stoppage. So he's got all stoppages, as I understand it, in his career thus far. And it's still pretty early on. He doesn't have a ton of fights. As you can see, it's under 10. But he's one of those guys that likely will be fast tracked to a title because he has that overall skill set. So I did want to mention Hernandez there, Yoneli Hernandez. So salute, Cuban fighter there. So he's one to check out for sure there, Boz. That's probably one to look back on as well. And also the other two fights that I see listed here, of course, Jose Benavidez, he was on fighting at 160, kind of a showcase fight. So he picked up a fifth round TKO over Rossenberger, who was a fighter I don't know that any of us had seen. And then Carmel Moten also was on there, picked up a TKO in a contest against a Cuban fighter named Zaldivar. But Carmel Moten is a fighter most certainly to watch. Explosive, young explosive fighter. He's got the amateur background and pedigree as well, but he's got a fan-friendly style. I've seen him live, and man, you hear his punches when they are landing. You certainly hear them. He's very explosive, so he's one to watch as well, and I'm sure you've all heard that. Carmel Moten, folks. So kudos there. And then, to round things off, we had another card. We had a couple other cards that were going down on Saturday and Friday. So these I do need to watch. I haven't seen them. I don't know if you have either, Bob, but Azim versus Lipin Yates. I believe neither of us have seen that. But Azim picks up a 9th round TKO over Lipin Yates, which I think we expected there, Bob, going into it. Lipin Yates with his better days certainly behind him, but still a tough fighter, and he's got a decent skill set to him as well. But that being said, Azim, younger, fresher fighter who's on the rise right now. And I guess you can say Lipin Yates' stock has essentially been in decline for a few years at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Azim was also coming off a knockout win over O'Hara Davis. So, he pretty much proved himself as a talented fighter. And, from what I heard, it was a pretty one-sided destruction. It was stopped early in the 9th round. I had it picked to end in the 11th round, by the way.
Okay.
So, but I knew that Azim would probably stop Lipinus because, he has been stopped already and has some, some mileage on him. He's not the same fighter, definitely, as you said, that he used to be. And Azim is headed for a bright future. It seems so anyway now.
And he's super lightweight. Lightweight, another name there, 140.
Yeah, he's a tall guy for that division and really good. Has got good fundamentals and pretty good power as well. Now he's proven it. Yep. So we'll see. I mean, he's at 140, so of course, I don't know if he will stay there, but he's only 22 now. But,
22. Wow. Yeah. So he's got some time and growth.
Yeah, he'll probably grow into a welterweight and maybe even super welterweight in the end. I don't know. But let's hope
140 is fairly stacked in some sense there. If you think about the divisions just across the board, a lot of talent there. And some of that talent is going to ultimately go up to 147. So I expect a little bit down the road, while there's a slight lull at 147 right now, I expect it to heat up a bit more here in a couple of years with some of these fighters moving up to 147 too.
Yeah. I mean, now he beat kind of, the gatekeeper, which was Lipinets. He was, I guess you can call him the gatekeeper. And it was a test, And if he hadn't stopped Lipinets, then probably, it would be just a sign that he isn't ready yet to take on the best. But he seems to be ready now, seems to have proven.
He's on it. He's on it for sure. So one to watch out for. UK fighter there, folks. As mentioned, Azim. What is his first name? I did know it.
Adam
Azim. Yes. So Adam Azim and he's one to watch for sure, as mentioned, and he's on a pretty solid trajectory right now, and we'll
Yeah.
see. I think he has the seems to have the talent to get to that world stage, or this you could say
Mhm.
is introduction to that world stage with lifting Yates being a former world champion and all. So we'll see how he holds up there. This is a good solid one for him. So
Mhm.
Azim, he was the headliner for that. You also had Caleb Simpson picking up a victory as well.
All right.
Uh, TKO in 5 rounds over Horga, who's a Ghanaian fighter, I believe. Uh,
Okay. Well, yeah, he's also very promising. He had a fight like a month ago only, Simpson. So
oh yeah,
that was, it didn't last long. It was, I think,
yeah.
second round
When did I
stoppage.
catch that one? I have to look back. But yeah, Caleb, yeah, he's not bad. We'll see how he ends up shaping up. But it's super middleweight there, folks. So another fighter out of the UK.
Hmm.
So one to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's not gonna be easy to make his mark there.
Oh yeah,
No.
no doubt, no doubt. There's some competition there. And then Friday there was another UK card. I just happened to catch this one thereby. So you had Littard versus Osaze. So this was a fight that went down in Greenwich. So let me see, George Littard, Derek Osaze, and basically had some anticipation there domestically coming into it. The two seemed to really have some. I don't know if it's bad blood or just some intensity towards each other. So I ended up watching the fight, and it was pretty much littered the whole way. I don't know if you caught any of it, but uh, Litter was pretty much in charge and in control. Seemed to be the better boxer, and he used his size and length fairly well. It was a good contest. Osaze, he didn't really win enough or win a ton of rounds, but even the scorecards were a little bit closer than what I had saw. But he was pretty much down for the
Yeah.
majority of the contests. But the scorecards do seem to be fairly close, 96-94 twice, and then 97-93. But I felt it was one that Littard was in control the entire time. That
Mm.
being said, we'll see what it leads to. And then there was an undercard fight, Boston versus Fawaz, which was a pretty good fight right here, where you had two youngsters going at it. It ended up becoming a split draw. You could argue that Fawaz was probably the rightful victor, but this was a hometown sort of crowd, it seemed, for Boston. And that's one of the things that was brought up when they were interviewing the two fighters in the aftermath. They were right there next to each other, so it was pretty entertaining. Just the contest as a whole. But yeah, that was another UK card that went down. Let
Yeah.
me see here, and I'll note
Yeah.
that yeah, there was also another card, but I don't know these guys. And one of them has a super long name, Russian fighter Zadin Gazahimedov Megadov or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Machunu, I heard of Machunu, but he lost the decision. This was a 10 round catchweight at heavyweight. So interesting. But
Gaji
yeah,
Magomedo. Yeah, Gaji Magomedo. That's right.
Gaji Manzaretto. Very interesting one. That's a long one right there. That's a long name for sure, if you see
Yeah.
it. But yeah, that went down, but I didn't catch that. So I don't know if he did either. But anyway, so that's kind of what went down here over the weekend. And of
Mhm.
course, we have a fight today. We should note there, Bob. We do have a fight today, and that's Claressa Shields, or fight card today. Claressa Shields making her return to the ring at heavyweight, taking on Perkins. I forget what Perkins' first name is, but this is going to be on the Zone. Of course, I think there's a combination with Salida Promotions. Salida Promotions, that's who she works with. So yeah, Danielle Perkins, Claressa Shields, Danielle
Yeah.
Perkins, heavyweight
She's
title
okay.
fight on the women's side there, Boz. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Danielle Perkins looks like a big gal. She's
Yeah,
very muscular, and it seems like, I saw that weigh in, and seems like Clarissa Shields just put on a lot of weight, not a lot of muscle, but a lot of weight to be
yeah.
a heavyweight to make that. So I don't know how that will work for her. I mean, Perkins looks a lot more defined and ripped than she does, but in the end, of course, it's down to the skill. But
Yep.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think. I mean, Claressa cannot punch. We know that, especially not at heavyweight. So if
Oh
she
yeah.
wins, it will be on points. And yeah, most likely it will be her. But we can hope, I guess, for an upset. But then it would probably have to happen by a stoppage, and yeah, that's not gonna be easy, is it, for
Oh yeah.
Perkins? Mm.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So it's
Yeah, she's
yeah,
a good looking lady. That's true. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
both look good on that. I mean, yeah, I thought so. Anyway, though Clarissa put on quite a lot of yeah, bad weight, let's call it.
yeah, she's probably closer to what she walks around at, and that makes it
Mm,
comfortable for her. So yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. Perkins, she does have an amateur background. She doesn't have a ton of fights here at the pro level, as we noted, 5-0. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she can't, or doesn't have the skill set to pull something off. In this case, she's going to get Shields though, and I do think that Shields is
mm,
ultimately the better overall fighter, better overall skill set,
mm,
etc. So it should be a Shields victory. I think it goes the distance. That being said, Perkins, hey, she'll be in there for a good little bit, and she does, as
mm.
mentioned, have a background tied to her. So we'll see how it all pans out for them. But yeah, it seemed pretty like a little pretty fun way there when the two were jawing at each other. So Perkins is a legitimate heavyweight, so there on the women's
Yeah,
side. So
she's
she'll
as tall
she'll
as
have a
I.
tougher time, I believe, out this time than she did with the champion, because I do think Perkins will provide a better contest for her than what the champion who Shields beat in that last fight for the title
Mm,
did. So that's my opinion. And shout out to
yeah,
Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz out there in the mix who's dropped by.
hey,
Appreciate you
hey,
there, Bruce. Be sure to check him out,
salute,
folks. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more.
salute, my good man.
Indeed. All right, and real quick here, Boz. So what else is coming? So yeah, the Shields fight is today, folks. So it's today. So check it out today. Then coming up on Thursday, there's going to be a card out of Canada that's going to be on ESPN. I'm thinking it's Eye of the Tiger, probably in combination with Top Rank. But the main event, Byers Lanov versus Mimoun. So Byers Lanov, a Canadian fighter, Mimoun, French fighter. I had to
Um,
look into those guys, but I do see Jalolov is going to be fighting Jalolov, the heavyweight there out of Uzbekistan. He's going to be on the undercard, and he's going to be taking on a French fighter by the name of Spillmont. But Jalolov, folks, is one to watch. Certainly on the
yeah,
heavyweight side, he has a lot of potential. Big guy,
finally,
about 6'7" or something like that, right, Bob?
mm,
And of course, he
yeah,
won the gold medal in the Olympics this year. This is his second time or second stint in the Olympics, something like that, second or third, but I mean the
last.
second.
You mean last year? Or, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, I thought he would turn pro before, but no, yeah, he's finally done it. Mm,
oh, yeah. So it should be a good one. So we'll see how he does. And then on Friday, there's a Santos versus Pitters card. This is in the UK. French fighter is taking on a British fighter. Then on the 8th, this Saturday coming up, we have a few cards or a couple cards that are going down. Derek Chisora, Otto Valine is a card that's taking place.
yeah,
That
so
should be an interesting one, I guess you can say.
yeah, it will be. I mean, it's in Manchester, so I hope Valin doesn't have to win by a knockout to get a decision there. Who
Oh yeah.
knows? Hmm, hope not, but I would like to see one happen, but Valin is not usually the guy who wins in a big fight, let's say by knockout. So
Yeah, it should. Yeah, it should be interesting for sure. And hey, could it be a swan song for Derek Chisora? Time will tell. Time will
yeah,
certainly tell. But hey, I'd imagine it'll be a good, fun fight
only
for
time
as
will
long as
tell.
it lasts, and it may go the distance. Then you have Willie Hutchinson taking on could be Zach Parker or
Yeah,
uh,
Zach Parker.
Zach Parker. So that should be a pretty interesting fight in itself. And I like Hutchinson, and he's still a promising fighter who has a pretty solid skill set. He's super long as well. So it should be pretty good in that one as well. Another domestic fight going down.
Yeah, Hutchinson is very good.
Oh yeah, Willie Hutchinson. So yeah, he lost to Joshua Buatsi in his last contest out.
I thought he was doing well before he got knocked down the first time, and he got knocked down. Was it 3 times or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that just made him lose his mojo.
Oh yeah, certainly. So he's bouncing back here. Zach Parker. That should be a pretty decent contest right there. So that's down. This is going to be a TNT Sports 1 card. So you'll likely need some other form of television to watch that if you're not in the UK. Then there's the Pro Box card that is going to be on next Saturday as well, going down in San Antonio. You're going to have Cardenas taking on Costa. We'll also see the return of Lester Martinez. Let's go, Lester. He's a solid, promising fighter. Then Rakimov is going to be making a return as well. So that should be an interesting Pro Box TV cards going down in San Antonio. So that's slated for next Saturday as well. So I wanted to take note of that. So, yeah, that's what's coming, and that's what's went down. So, with that in mind, I think we've about covered it as far as what was remaining here for today. But of course, we'll be around. It's not the end of the road, folks. So we'll certainly be in contact as time goes on. But thanks everyone for attending, showing us some love here on this wonderful Sunday.
Yeah. We'll see you soon, guys.
All right. Appreciate everyone. So enjoy the rest of your day. Again, another edition of Boxing Chit, and we'll be out of this thing. And Boz, you're gonna have to leave us in this one because my stuff is frozen. So cheers, folks. Have a good one.
Have a good one, everybody.